Right.
And I think that government, meaning for the people, by the people, not by elected officials, but by the people, that these individuals should be given the right to speak.
Okay.
And I don't think that as president of this board, that you should continue to ignore them. I will make a motion to request that individuals in this audience that want to speak to the item that's on this agenda be allowed that right, not a privilege, that right. My motion is to allow the individuals that want to speak to the District 2 supervisor vacant position be given that right. And that's my motion.
Okay, Ms. Calhoun, this is not a public forum for that particular type of debate. Ms. Carr, continue, please.
Mr. President.
I second the motion.
Okay. Ms. Carr, go ahead.
Mr. President, anytime according to Robert's Rules of Order.
I understand what you're going with Robert's Rules of Order. I am not accepting your motion. I'm not accepting it. So, go ahead and continue.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Board. Resolution of the Hinds County Board of Supervisors acknowledging June 10th, which celebrates African American freedom and achievement while encouraging continued self-development and respect for all cultures. Whereas June 10th is the oldest national celebration commemorating the end of slavery in the United States, honoring African American freedom and emphasizing education and achievement. Whereas in cities across the country, people of all races, nationalities, and religions are joining hands to truthfully acknowledge a period in our history that shaped and continues to influence our society today. Whereas dating back to 1865, it was on June 19th that the Union soldiers, led by Major General Gordon Grandjoy, landed in Garrison, Texas, with news that the war had ended and the enslaved were now free. Note that this was 2.5 years after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which had become official on January 1st, 1863. Whereas today, June 19th is enjoying a phenomenal growth rate within the communities and organizations throughout the country. Institutions such as the Smithsonian, the Henry Ford Museum, and others have begun sponsoring June 10th centered activities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Hinds County Board of Supervisors hereby acknowledges June 10th, which celebrates African American freedom and achievement while encouraging continuous self-development and respect for all cultures. So resolved and ordered this the 17th day of June, 2013.
So moved, Mr. President.
It's been moved. Is there a second? I'll second it. It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Mr. Stokes, continue.
Mr. President, thank you. Mr. President, I had a young lady who had to leave. She had an appointment at the hospital. They were here from Green Gable Estates. But I would like the Deputy Chief of the Fire Department to come up and just give a note of her concern. So we talked about it during the budget.
Good morning.
Good. Joe.
Mr. Stokes has, I believe, a Green Gable Estates about the rating bureau. We did discuss that at the budget hearing. Currently in the unincorporated areas, we have what we call a Class 10. A lot of your smaller towns have a Class A. You're graded by the Mississippi Rating Bureau of several factors. That is something we are currently working on with our fire departments to take those that are in a Class 10 either to a 9 or an 8 or a 7 possibly. We work on that every day. That is a priority of ours. It's not something that can happen overnight.
Okay.
But we are working towards it.
Thank you, Mr. President. And again, we apologize. They said they didn't know it would take so long.
And I have spoken with Ms. Doherty, who was here. I have spoken with her on several occasions. about the issues and things.
Could you give us, if you could, some suggestions, things that we might can do? I know money might be a major issue. Something right that we get to them and we can have some kind of plan.
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Fisher, he has a question.
I have a question. I've gotten some calls from people who live right outside of Byron. Some sort of the same issue you got here. Everyone in the county has the same fire rating. Is that correct?
Everyone in the unincorporated has a 10. Now, Byram has a class 7.
That's a city.
Well, the city, and it goes into the county, a small portion.
How far out?
But, if you go Davis Road, it goes Davis Road to Spring Ridge. Technically, you can get it within 5 road miles of the fire station if your insurance company will.
Okay, because I had referred this lady to you Thursday or Friday, to speak with you. She was on just off Davis Road, within the 5 miles.
She should be able to get it,
But
if her insurance company.
if her insurance, and that's what I told her. So you may be getting a call about that. But generally speaking, if the insurance company will accept it in the Byram area only, it's within 5 miles, but that doesn't hold true in, say, Bolton or Raymond.
Right. Now, I believe like in Miss Dodson's case where she was close by the city, sometimes the insurance companies will rate you at an A, but that's the individual companies.
Now, does this require an interlocal agreement between the city and the county?
We have a contract basically between the county and the fire department. And we're fixing to have to do one between the county and the cities. Basically, we provide the fire protection in the cities. The equipment, the funding. The towns, besides a building and maybe water, towns don't provide anything, the county does.
Clerk on that, please.
With the exception of Jackson Clinton.
Well, I was going to say, I've seen Clinton's budget. So, okay, I got it.
I'm sorry, with the exception of those 3 minutes.
But generally speaking, within a 5-mile radius.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Stokes, continue.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we have some citizens here from Sears Street. They stopped me and I told them I put them on the agenda. Come up, their concern is one that heart failed and loss of a mother because of
Okay, state your name, please.
Good morning. My name is Crystal Gaines, and I was born and raised on C Street in Jackson. And on May 2nd, my grandmother, she has had heart trouble, but we called AMR on May 2nd because she passed out. There was a police officer on scene. We called AMR from the house phone, didn't get no answer. I went outside to ask the police officer if he could call. That was about 9:15. 9:28 was the initial call that AMR said they received the call from JPD. They didn't arrive on the scene until 12 minutes later. The AMR they responded had to come from Metro Center Mall to Sears Street. They said it took them 12 minutes, and according to AMR, they have to arrive between 6 to 8 minutes to a call. Between those 4 minutes, my grandmother passed in her house. They came, they worked on her outside in the ambulance, and for 15 minutes. When she got to the hospital, they worked on her for another 45 minutes. She went an hour with no brain to her, no oxygen to her brain. The doctor said that was way too long. 15 minutes is too long for anybody to go without oxygen to their brain. We lost her as opposed to us trying to get her there, and JPD not wanting us to leave. They saying they on the way. We could have gotten my grandmother from the house to UMC, and maybe she'll still be here today. But the thing I have a problem with is she stayed 2 minutes from the AMR. They say when no one's stored at their facility or whatever, they can respond to a call. I think something needs to be in place that is better. That if I call 911, what's the point of me calling if I can't get no assistance? Why am I calling AMR if no one can respond in a matter of time? And people lose their life because They don't have nobody to respond. AMR will sit at the end of the corner before they will respond to a call because they want JPD to be there. That shouldn't be. If they afraid of their job, and I understand the protocol, or they don't want to go because of someone shooting or anything, they shouldn't sign up for it. It needs to be something more in place where someone can respond to a call in a timely manner. Or if you call the 911, you're not getting an answer. Why is this? I want to know.
They made concern is one, and there's a lot of other issues. And MR came out, they had a conversation. Their concern is there, and I thought, and maybe others thought, that the ambulance comes from the medical model. And what they're telling you in the beginning, they're coming from the Metro Center model.
That's what they told us.
And that was the time issue that some may think led to the death of their grandmother. With all the ambulance at the medical model, they were telling me, I was under the assumption also that they at least come from the medical model. And so I guess we need to find out the procedure the AMR is using, as where are the ambulance, where they coming from, and those kind of things. I didn't know all the answers then, but I tried to schedule me with
we pleaded with JPD to let someone take her in the vehicle.
Well, there are several different issues here, and Mr. Brand, I hope you're making, Mr. Brand is our coordinator that will make sure that you get the supervisor's report on this. One of the issues is that no one from JPD cannot tell you that you cannot make a physical vehicle transport. That's the first issue.
We was told that several times.
Okay, well, no one can tell you that, first of all. And then the next thing is most people really don't understand that once you dial 911, you don't really talk to the ambulance people. You're talking to Jackson Police.
I understand.
So it has to be, the phone has to be answered by JPD and transferred to the ambulance service. So the first issue is that the phone was not answered at JPD, obviously.
No.
And so we need to look at both of those, and we'll ask the county administrator, along with Mr. Brand, who's responsible for making sure that AMR stays on their allotted time. When we'll have a special report that will come back to Mr. Brown. We need a report to come back to the board by the next meeting. If you can furnish the supervisor something in between it, so we can have the family and let them know as to what the response time, the average response time, the allotted response time as it relates to this particular type of emergency.
Mr. Brown, he'll get with you.
Well, according to what we was told, a lot of time is between 6 to 8 minutes.
Right.
They didn't arrive until 12 minutes.
Right.
That's 4 minutes.
Well, I'm not disputing that. What I want is I want the tape time. I want it to where everything is verified, to where it can go to all the supervisors, and we'll go from there and see what we have to do. So, Mr. Brand, if you will get the information from them, and we'll get back with you as it relates to this particular issue.
We have a map showing the route that AMR took
right
from Highway 8 and Metro Center Mall to Livingston Road, well, Verdon Addition neighborhood, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Okay. Make sure you get with Mr. Bryan, and we'll go from this particular point.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening.
Okay.
Mr. President, finally I placed item on the agenda. I tried to keep it short because I know we leaving from the coast today for the convention. And I received a letter from the election commission. Can I hold it? I haven't met with them. That's my fault. And I hold it and give it to them. And thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, we now have the district attorney here. We'd like to listen to the Honorable Mr. Robert Smith. Mr. District Attorney, good morning.
Good morning. This morning, we wanted to make the additional request for $30,000 that was previously made. Our funds for prosecution has been completely depleted.
Mr. President, before we say too much, can we just go take the motions?
Okay.
So everybody don't know what's going on.
Okay, take one.
Can we take the motions?
Okay.
So you don't get
Okay, what we'd like is, if it's the pleasure of the board, yes, how much are we talking about altogether?
Okay, I was going to ask you to increase the county attorney to $15,000.
Okay. Okay. How much money are we talking about altogether? How much?
$95,000.
Okay. All right. What we'll do is we'll have a motion, and then we'll take a second, and then we'll discuss. Okay. Is there a motion to be made? It's a motion has been made. Is there a second?
Well, wait, are we voting on one or all?
All.
Second.
Okay. It's motion, and it's been moved and second. Now, discussion from telling us basically what we already know, but you have a motion and a second. So go ahead.
Well, I believe that's about the sum of it.
So you decided you're not going to say anything. What a great Lord, I guess I should say.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. It's been moved and properly seconded that we complete the request of Ms. Phillips, the district attorney, and Judge Skinner. All in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes. Judge, thank you. Ms. Phillips, Judge Skinner.
Thank you.
Thank you. See, you just stayed around. Things worked out.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right. We appreciate that. Now we'll go directly to the county administrator, Mrs. Davis.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First thing under county administrator is unclaimed bodies. However, no unclaimed bodies are on the agenda for today for your consideration. The second item under Mr. Gibson, we want to remove that one. Further procedures need to be made for this issue, so we want to remove this from agenda. It'll be brought back at a future meeting.
Okay.
Next, we have Mr. Blake Wallace, Executive Director of the Hinds County Economic Development Authority. An item for your consideration.
Mr. President, Board, good morning.
Good morning.
Can I get my motion?
Depends on how much you want.
Yeah, it's not very much this morning. We continue our work out at Sonny McDonald Industrial Park. We have an invoice to WEI-IMS in the amount of $661.50.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Move for approval.
It's been moved. Is there a second? I'll second. It's been moved and properly seconded. I'll move for the question for Mr. Stokes.
We used the 1994 bonds.
Yes.
To pay this. How much do we have left in that?
Yeah, we're around 3.3 million, somewhere in there. And those funds were there for the finishing up Sonny McDonald Industrial Park, and then we can also, which we will eventually have to do, is try to find some additional property to purchase, and we can use it for that.
So we got 3.3 million.
In that neighborhood. It's in that neighborhood. That's not exact.
Okay. My second question. We're paying the $661 for what?
This is engineering services as part of the site planning, water, sewer, and other things that we're doing out in the park.
Okay.
And we'll be adding some to that. We came to the board not long ago to get authorization to run a gas line, to do water and sewer, and the road associated with a new company that will be located in the park. So those funds can be used for all that infrastructure work.
Okay. So when you say sonic planning,
Site planning, I'm sorry.
Site planning.
Yes, right. We've laid out the industrial park into lots and things like that. So the engineers provide those services where the water sewer lines are going to run and all those types of things.
do we currently have anybody out there?
Just Magnolia label at the moment, and we're working and almost at a point to where we'll have a second company.
Okay. Now, with Magnolia label, they're getting their water from where?
The water service out there is from the city of Jackson, as well as the sewer service. But we have to put it in our park, and then we turn it over to the city.
Has the city of Jackson objected to continue to provide services out there?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yeah.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Davis, continue.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Next, we have on the agenda Darren Porter, Director of Permanent Zoning, with 2 items for your consideration.
Okay. Very good morning.
Good morning, Mr. President, Board of Supervisors. We do have 2 items to present this morning. The first, the Permanent Zoning Office is making a request on behalf of Viewpoint and Bellwood subdivisions, requesting an authorization to grant a temporary variance regarding lot sizes in Viewpoint Phase 3 and Bellwood Phase 4, subject to Planning Commission hearing and plat approval. I did submit some information to your offices in regards to that on the last week. If you have any additional questions, I'll be glad to answer.
So moved.
It's been moved and properly second. The district where Bellwood's located?
District 2.
Is that off of Kickapoo Road?
Kickapoo and Tim Road.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Mr. Stokes.
Reverend McQuaid, I still receive calls and letters from citizens who have these subdivisions. I know Supervisor Fisher is ready to leave, and I think he had a court hearing where these developers never come and put that final topic of asphalt in these subdivisions. So we waited for this court thing, and the time is gone, and we still don't have any more progress. And these citizens in these subdivisions are giving us the law that say that we can accept them into the county, but it's going to cost so much money if we accept them in with the quality of work being inferior. I guess I'm trying to come to you asking, can your division or department move some of these developers, or should we go move forward, bring them in, and understand that we bring them in, we'll have enough money to do them all. We wait for the court hearing when they said that they were supposed to do it, the judge said they must do it, but they didn't do it. So I guess we're in the catch-22, I'm trying to get some direction from you.
Only part of that falls under my department. Public Works has been working directly with the streets portion of it. You have 2 different parts of things that have already occurred due to the recession. A lot of your developers lost the properties. They no longer own them. We took actions from Permanent Zoning Department on one development where we refused to issue any additional permits until something was done. They at least went in and patched the holes. They did not put the final surface on, but they at least patched the holes. But again, the biggest problem is most of those developers are no longer in the business, or there's really nobody to go after other than the homeowners, and the county has taken the position that they never approved them. So again, you are in a catch-22. This is one of the few thriving developments that has met the requirements of the county, and their roads are being approved as we're going along. And in my letter to the board, I did make reference to that. Phases 1 and 2 of his development has already been accepted by the board. They're working on phases 2 and 3 of that same project. There's a few things they have to finish up before that section of the road is finished. But they have sold all the lots, and they're trying to move forward in the next phases. And they've sold the lots, and they've got individuals coming in asking for permits. And the position it puts me in is that the county requires a minimum of 2 acres, and some of these lots are 1.7, 1.8 acres lots, so we're asking for a variance based off of that. But as far as the condition of the roads and what we can and can't do, that kind of fell in the legal division, of which we're very limited as what we can say. Moving forward, there are some things we can do, but those that are already in that state, which were quite a few of them, we were limited to the fact of simply denying permits. And the permits were usually not for the developers, but for individuals that had purchased lots in that development.
Thank you. And could you just give us, I know sometime back we received a list of all these subdivisions that were not completed. Could you maybe give us another list so we can, try to have it and try to, we're waiting around waiting for the court situation to finish its course, and look like nothing really happened. Thank you.
Thank you, President.
All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes. Continue, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Second item on the agenda is regards to an unkempt property pursuant to Section 19.5 of the Code of 1972. recently adopted House Bill 545, the Hinds County zoning order. The Director of Permitting and Zoning, I'm requesting authorization to approve Hinds County Public Works Department to remove the burned building and clear the lot at 7405 Terry Road, Terry, Mississippi in District 5. Second item, appropriate funds for inspection and disposal of Hinds County Public Works Department for the removal of burned structure and lot clearing. And the third part is to authorize a levy, authorization to levy actual costs and or fines associated with the cost of cleanup and disposal of said property.
So moved.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Mrs. Davis, continue.
Thank you, Mr. McQuarrie. Next item on the agenda is for personnel matters. However, there are none for your consideration today, as well as under human capital development. That leads us to Mr. Timothy Lewis's department purchasing clerk. We will have Mrs. House representing the purchasing department with 2 items.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. President, fellow board members. I'm here requesting for the authorization to obtain a court order to make a payment to Adiel Stover in the amount of $313.40 for goods received by the Hinds County Sheriff's Department.
So moved.
Okay. It's been moved. Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes. Continue, please.
The second item, I believe, is a recommendation for a bid for the Development and Infrastructure Program grant through the, I believe it's Economic Development.
Yes, and they are here to carry out that consideration for you. Mr. Upskin is here to represent the department to give you this request.
Mr. President, members of the board, good morning. This is related to the Development Infrastructure Grant Program for students C. Irving for the retention of them here in the county. And we did put it out for bid and received bids back, and we're recommending a bid of $97,700 from Jeffcoat Fence Company.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
Question, Mr. President.
Question from Mr. Stokes?
We're doing infrastructure.
Yes. Stuart C. Irving was going to leave at one point, and so the state of Mississippi, along with the county, stepped up to help retain them here. So one of the things that came up was the state of Mississippi offered a Development Infrastructure Grant Program grant that goes towards infrastructure. Part of the infrastructure that the state is allowing is fencing, and so that's what we're using the funds for, but the funds do come through the Mississippi Development Authority.
All right.
Okay.
That's why I asked if we put up fence. I know that's
Yes.
okay. I know we're talking about some
No water.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes. Okay. Mrs. Davis, continue.
Thank you. Next, the next item will be under Budget and Finance. However, there are none for consideration today.
Okay.
That leads us to admitted insertions. There are 2. However, no board action is required.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll now go to Mr. Tony Taylor, Board Attorney. Morning, Mr. Gallo.
One.
No inventory?
No.
He's not presenting this today? It was in the packet.
I apologize.
All you.
I also apologize, President and board members. We do have a inventory. Thank you, Ms. Brenda. It was covered in my agenda.
Morning, Mr. President and board members.
Good morning.
I bring to the board 4 requests for approval from the Inventory Department. The first one is request approval to transfer county assets within Hinds County.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board? It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
My second request is to sell county assets in a public auction.
So moved.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
My third request is to delete county asset as lost or stolen.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
My fourth and final request is for approval for unmarked vehicles in Hinds County.
It's a pleasure to the board.
So,
Say that one again.
Unmarked vehicles. This is from the sheriff department. Every year we have to get approval to have unmarked vehicles within the county.
Second.
It's been moved and properly questioned for Mr. Stokes.
How many vehicles are these?
61.
61 unmarked vehicles
Yes, sir.
in the county?
Yes, sir.
Is that an increase in numbers or
No, it's pretty much the same.
why do you need so many?
Well,
those are sheriff's requests.
I can't answer that, sir, but basically you got different operations taking place.
I just leave that alone. We'll give it to Sheriff.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All those in favor of? Opposed to?
No.
Motion passes. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Now we'll go to Mr. Gaylor.
Morning.
Okay. Good morning.
The matter we have before you again is bringing back the resolution that was discussed at the last board meeting with regard to the paying off of the amount that is owed to Motorola. This is a general obligation note that will pay that amount off not to exceed $3,200,000.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Is there a second? It's been moved and properly, excuse me, I will second it. It's been moved and properly seconded. Discussion, Ms. Calhoun and then Mr. Fisher.
This resolution that's being recommended, declaring the intention of the Board of Supervisors to issue a general obligation note in the aggregate amount of $3 million for the purpose of providing funds for the refinancing communications equipment. This motion is being made as a part of the comprehensive financial plan that has not been approved by this board, or has it been passed. But anyway, my point is Malachi is supposed to come back and make some recommendations on how the county can save money through a comprehensive financial plan. But as of today, the only recommendation made by Malachi is how the county can spend money so that their company can make more money. That is, Malachi is recommending that this board approve issuing a general obligation bond to finance the over $700,000 debt that we owe to Motorola, and they are recommending that we finance this debt over a period of years. Likewise, Malachi is asking this board to contract with them to serve as the financial advisor, making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm assuming that our board attorney will request the board to hire his law firm as the bond attorney. As a board, we have other options in paying off this $700 and some thousand debt. We can do so by refinancing the debt by getting competitive quotes from banks located in Mississippi that will give us a low fixed interest rate. And that way the county will not have to pay out all of these hundreds of thousands of dollars to issue a bond. And we can, by working with local banks, we can help increase the tax base in Hinds County, or if a bank, let's say outside of Hinds County, comes in with the best quote, then we can at least keep the money in the state of Mississippi. Then we have another option, and that is we can utilize existing surplus funds. My question is this: with refinancing the bond through issuance of bond, that means that we'll be paying monthly notes.
No.
Okay. So what will we be doing?
Actually, the issuance of this note contemplates what you were talking about with regard to the advertising and publication of a notice. It allows local banks and other institutions, financial institutions, to make basically a closed bid for the financing of the note. That's exactly what this is. It's a similar function that was done several months ago, in which the entity that won that bid was Bancorp South. So this same process is being recommended for this financing as well, because it would save approximately 4 times the statutory minimum that is recommended by the state code, and which would amount to over $300,000 worth of savings. And in fact, it would probably be somewhat less than, a little less than $200,000 less than the note that you're contemplating paying right now that is past due in the immediate. So it would provide substantial savings, but it does require, that's what this resolution does, it requires publication of a notice, in which case we'll find out from the lending institutions that respond to it exactly what those potential finances look like.
I don't see where the savings are going to come in at over $300,000. Please help me to see that, because if we finance the debt with the banks, then we're not having to pay financial advisors, we're not having to pay bond attorneys, and we're not having to pay underwriters.
Okay.
So if the quotes came in, all we have to do is get staff to work with these banks and you as the board attorney. But what you're suggesting is to bring in a whole team of people that are not going to work free for this county. We're going to have to pay them to work with us as the financial advisors, as the bond attorneys, and as the underwriters. So how do you know it's going to be cheaper if you haven't made a request for proposals? You haven't submitted a request for proposals. I think, again, it would be cheaper if we just either paid off the debt and we wouldn't owe anybody, because we have sufficient funds, not from the E911's account, but from our general funds. We can just simply pay off that debt. Or we can refinance it through a bank note and not have to issue a bond.
When you refinance through a bank note, as you've done in the past, as you've issued notes in the past, there are several documents that are drafted to do that, approximately 19 or 20. And at the end of those documents is a thing called an attorney's opinion letter. And that opinion letter has to be executed by some certified note counsel. And yes, it requires some amount of spending to issue any type of a debt. However, you will save well over $300,000 in doing this. The present interest rate that you financed the equipment with is over 5%. some of the projected interest rates that would come back are closer to 2% or less. So that's why you would save well over $300,000, and you would get the relief of not having to pay the $723,000 amount that is owed right now, that is past due right now. You would say that amount would not, that projected note would not come due again for another several months, which would be significantly less than the $723,000 amount that you have right now.
At this juncture, we have not seen a schedule of payments. And again, you're going to have to pay those underwriters. You're going to have to pay those bond attorneys. You're going to have to pay the financial advisors. They're going to get, between the three of them, they probably going to get $300,000. So are you saying that the $700 and some thousand interest rate in refinancing is going to be so low that you can save $300,000? And
yes.
How do you know what the bank interest rates are?
Projections.
When you have not made a request for the banks to provide us with any funds.
Anytime you attempt to issue this type of a note, it's prudent to talk with financial professionals and financial representatives of lending institutions that can give you projected interest rates for these types of notes. Now, because there is a process by which you can't get the firm schedule in place until you get the notices back or until you receive the bids. But you can receive projections, and those projections will allow you to do this. Now, the potential cost of issuance that you're talking about have been projected to be, closer to $25,000 as well, and that's why you will save, and not hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's why you will save well over $300,000 in doing this issuance.
This same company worked with the city of Jackson and
the same company as what?
As Malachi. That's you.
That's not who I refer to when I say I receive quotes from lending institutions.
The city of Jackson bond rating has been downgraded by major credit rating services. The downgrade came as the city was poised to take out bonds that were advertised to pay for themselves. I could read the rest of it, but anyway, it was these same financial advisors that worked with the city of Jackson.
Okay.
And again, we have in the past, this board has taken out a loan to pay off to pay off indebtedness. And when we did, we were able to pay off that indebtedness within a couple of years, or sometimes a year, at a much cheaper rate than issuing a loan. So that's why I would suggest that we go that same route. Let's look at it, compare apples to apples. Let's go with requesting an RFP from the banks to see just what kind of rate they can give us.
Well, this process will yield that. Actually, that's why we're advocating, passing the resolution to publish the notice. And when those bids come back, you're not obligated to accept any one of them necessarily if none of them come back in a sufficient manner.
Okay, before we go to Mr. Fisher, would you just make a correction, correct me if I'm wrong, that we don't owe Motorola, it's the Bank of America?
I apologize. It's Bank of America that did the financing. So.
Okay. And I do agree, though, that if we can do this and save the county some money from the inside, that's fine. I agree with that particular point, but I think that we need to go ahead and push the envelope on this particular issue. It's been lingering. I think that we need to show good faith and go ahead and take a vote. So, Mr. Fisher?
I have a question after Mr. Fisher.
Yeah, the current note, $723,000 a year, ends in what year?
You have 5 payments of $723,000, which is 3.6 some odd $1 million.
2017.
$3.6 million.
This request that you're going out, that you're asking us to go out for, when does that end? What is the year end date on that?
You're requesting a 5-year note, which means that it just depends on how the financing comes back. It could be up to 2018, it could be 2017, it could be even less than that, depending on what the responses are. Depends on how the lending institutions want to make their proposals.
Isn't it safe to say that the lending institution, if you ask for 5 years, is going to give you 5 years? So it's going to, so we're looking at 2008. So we're adding a year to this. So we're adding a year to this.
We can do the math. $723,000 times 5, it's 3.6 some odd $1 million. Projections have come back that would be closer to 3.3 million dollars.
I thought we owe 3.2 now.
You owe 3.15 plus it'll be some additional amount of interest depending on whenever the amount gets paid.
So where did 3.6 or 7 come from?
$723,000 is the amount that you're paying right now to Bank of America each year. 5 times that, it's $3.6 million. That's what you're projected to pay out on your present schedule.
So where did 3.2 come from?
3.2 is the amount that is presently owed to payoff.
It's a payoff amount.
Correct.
Check. Okay. I'm good.
Okay, we'll go to Ms. Calhoun, then I'm going to call the question.
The Bank of America, they would not reconsider refinancing it?
If they did a refinancing, they'd have to do it the same way any other lending institution would have to do it. Sure. They can respond as well.
Sure.
Okay. It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to?
No.
Motion fails. Okay?
Mr. Gabriel, before you leave, Mr. President, I have an item that I would like Mr. Gabriel to respond to with copies. His copy. Yeah, that's right. His copy. You read it in the record. And we have one at your desk for you, Mr. Gabriel.
Good morning again, Mr. President, members of the board. This letter is dated June 14, 2013. President Gerald Steen, Supervisor of Madison County Board of Supervisors, District 3, Post Office Box 608, Canton, Mississippi. Read jurisdictional boundaries. Dear President Steen, I have received several complaints of conduct unbecoming of law enforcement officers from the Hinds County residents against the Madison County Sheriff's Department. According to several Hinds County residents, Madison County Sheriff Department deputies are pulling over Hinds County residents along the Interstate 220 corridor across the Madison County limit lines into Hinds County. I prepared this communication to officially request that the Madison County, Mississippi Sheriff Department cease and desist from issuing traffic citations, if any, in the county of Hinds. I thank you in advance for your cooperation and assistance in this matter. If you have any questions or need additional information, please do not hesitate to contact me. Sincerely, Kenneth I. Stokes, Vice President, Hinds County Board of Supervisors, District 5.
Mr. President and Mr. Gabriel, I saw with my own eyes because I've had complaints, but most times I know at night, but we all understand jurisdiction, and that has not changed. Our Sheriff Department can't go into Harrison County and just start giving tickets, even Warren County. Now, I understand that 220 and we have some boundary lines, but this happened between Hanging Malls and Watkins. Now, that's sold and holding in Hinds County. And the whole area, now I understand hot pursuit. There was no hot pursuit. I'm just saying that this is becoming a bit much. That now they're coming into Hinds County, writing tickets, and they know they're crossing the county line. Now, I know again, good relationships and those kind of things, all that money goes to Madison County. Now, down that money comes to Hinds County, ain't no question about that. But now, again, if I'm wrong, you can correct me, but jurisdictionally, they do not have authority to come in this county and write these tickets.
Certainly not the way that it's been described. But again, I would certainly yield to the Sheriff's Department as well to tell us if there's been some type of interlocal, unofficial interlocal agreement that's been established. But I would not see them being able to just sit inside of Hinds County and just write tickets as you described.
Interlocal agreement had to be approved by the Lord. That's us.
That's correct. So I'm not familiar with any type of agreement that exists that would allow them to do what you're saying.
Could you deal with the Madison County attorney and try to address the case and make sure if it's going on that they stop it?
I'll give them a call.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right.
We do have some matters for executive session.
Okay. All right. We'll now go to Mr. Mark Young, EOC Director.
Good morning, Board President, board members. Only have one. We going to poll on number 2. Only have one is a request to approve to apply for a Mississippi Security Grant in the amount of $20 million for a countywide public safety radio system. Total funding for this grant is $354 million.